Thank you for joining today's deep and powerful journey into one of the most transformative books of our time, Educated, a memoir by Tara Westover. Before we begin, I want to say thank you for being here, for choosing to invest in your growth, and for opening your heart to a story that has changed millions of lives across the world. Please don't forget to like, share, and comment at the end. Your support means the world, and it helps spread these lessons of hope and transformation to more people who need them. Now, let's begin this immersive exploration of Educated, a true story about the power of learning, the pain of awakening, and the courage it takes to rebuild yourself from nothing. Tara Westover's life began in the mountains of Idaho, in a family that rejected the government, doctors, and schools. Her parents believed the world was corrupted, so they kept their children isolated from everything, including education. Tara was born at home, never had a birth certificate, and never went to school. She didn't step into a classroom until she was 17. Imagine that, growing up without formal education, without any understanding of how society works, and yet possessing a fierce hunger to know more. That hunger becomes the heartbeat of this memoir. As Tara's story unfolds, we see a world where books and ideas are forbidden, where medical help is seen as weakness, and where obedience is demanded above all else. Her father, a deeply religious man, was convinced that the government was an enemy of faith. Her mother worked as a midwife and herbal healer, while her brothers helped their father in the junkyard. It was a dangerous place, full of explosions, flying metal, and broken bones. And yet, no one went to the hospital. Accidents were treated at home, even life-threatening ones. Through her vivid storytelling, Tara shows us how fear and belief can shape an entire family's reality. She reminds us that ignorance is not just a lack of education. It's often the result of control and fear. One of the most profound lessons in Educated is that education begins the moment you start questioning your reality. Tara's awakening starts small, reading secretly, trying to understand math and grammar on her own, and eventually preparing for the ACT exam without any formal background. It's astonishing how she teaches herself enough to be accepted into Brigham Young University. But once she arrives there, the world she enters is almost alien. She doesn't know what the Holocaust was. She has never heard of the civil rights movement. She doesn't understand simple hygiene or classroom etiquette. And yet, she learns. She struggles. She fails. She cries. But she learns, because she knows deep down that learning is freedom. As we move deeper into her journey, Tara's story becomes about more than books and classes. It's about identity. When she starts to question her upbringing, she faces an impossible choice: stay loyal to her family and the world she was raised in, or embrace the new world she's discovering through education. The more she learns, the more she sees the dysfunction in her family, especially the violence from one of her brothers, who constantly manipulates and abuses her. She tries to speak up, but her parents deny the truth and call her the liar. This moment, when truth meets denial, is the breaking point in Tara's transformation. She begins to understand that education isn't just about facts. It's about developing the ability to see the truth, even when it hurts. Through her years at university, Tara learns that knowledge has the power to both liberate and isolate. The more educated she becomes, the more separated she feels from her family. Education opens her eyes, but closes the door to her old life. This is one of the deepest truths in her story. Growth comes with loss. Sometimes you must lose people you love to find yourself. Tara's path to self-discovery is painful, filled with guilt and confusion, but ultimately, it becomes her rebirth. One of the most emotional parts of the book is Tara's internal battle between her love for her family and her need for freedom. She wants to belong, but she also wants to think for herself. And this tug-of-war is something many of us face, whether it's with family, tradition, or society's expectations. Educated teaches that sometimes being loyal to yourself means disappointing others. It's not rebellion, it's survival. As Tara continues her studies, she travels abroad, to Cambridge and Harvard. The girl who once worked in a junkyard now studies history under world-renowned professors. Her transformation feels impossible, yet it's entirely real. And it's not magic. It's the slow, relentless pursuit of truth. Education, as she discovers, isn't something that's given to you. It's something you claim, inch by inch, choice by choice, often in the face of great pain. Tara's story reveals another truth. Trauma doesn't disappear just because you leave home. It follows you into your thoughts, your doubts, your relationships. Even after escaping, Tara is haunted by guilt and the belief that she's betraying her parents. This emotional burden makes her question everything, even her own memories. What's real? What's imagined? This is where the book's brilliance lies. It's not just a memoir about education. It's a psychological journey through the process of deprogramming and healing. In one of the most memorable reflections, Tara writes, "You can love someone and still choose to say goodbye." That line captures the essence of her entire journey. Education gave her the language to understand her pain, the distance to analyze it, and the courage to heal from it. Through her voice, we understand that education isn't just about intellect. It's about reclaiming your story. The more we follow Tara's evolution, the clearer it becomes that education is both an escape and an awakening. It helps her see her parents not as villains, but as victims of their own fears and beliefs. She learns empathy, but she also learns boundaries, the understanding that love cannot exist without respect. And so, she chooses to distance herself, not out of hatred, but to protect her peace and her future. That decision marks her true graduation, not from Cambridge, but from the prison of her past. Every chapter of Educated echoes with one message. Knowledge is power, but self-awareness is freedom. The book challenges us to reflect on our own definitions of success and intelligence. Are we truly educated, or are we simply informed? Do we know ourselves as deeply as we know facts? Tara's life reminds us that real education is not memorizing, but transforming, not accumulation, but illumination. By the end of this story, Tara is no longer the same person. The frightened girl from the mountains becomes a woman who can stand alone in her truth. She loses her family but gains herself. She sacrifices belonging to discover authenticity. Her story isn't a fairy tale. It's raw, messy, and painfully human. But that's what makes it so powerful. Because it reminds us that the greatest education you'll ever receive is learning who you are and what you deserve. In Educated, we see how one woman's courage to learn can inspire millions to break their silence, challenge their beliefs, and fight for their right to know the truth. It's a reminder that education doesn't just happen in schools. It happens every time you read a book that changes your perspective, every time you confront a hard truth, and every time you refuse to accept ignorance as destiny. So as we close this journey, take a moment to reflect. What does education mean to you? What truths are you afraid to see? Tara's story teaches us that learning never ends. It's a lifelong rebellion against darkness. And maybe that's the greatest lesson of all. Thank you so much for staying with me through this emotional and transformative journey through Educated, a memoir. If you found value in this deep dive, please don't forget to like, share, and comment below about the lesson that spoke to you the most. Your engagement helps this channel grow and brings meaningful stories like this to others who need inspiration. Thank you again for watching. Stay curious, stay brave, and always keep learning.